When the BMW X6 was launched in 2008, it was a rather unique vehicle. It was an SUV, a traditionally practical body style, made decidedly less practical due to its sloping rear roofline. Many automotive journalists, and myself, even though I was a child, found the vehicle quite unattractive. But apparently consumers did not, because not only is the car still here 16 years later, but it also kickstarted an entirely new trend in the automotive industry, the coupe SUV. BMW followed up on the X6 with the X4 and the X2, and its German competitors also followed suit. Audi with vehicles like the Q8 and the Q5 Sportback, and Mercedes with vehicles like the GLC Coupe and the GLE Coupe. And it wasn't just contained to German OEMs. The first car to follow up on the coupe SUV body style was the short-lived Acura ZDX, but even to this day we have vehicles like the Infiniti QX55 and the Buick Envista, so the BMW X6 has been a quite influential vehicle. This is a 2024 BMW X6, now in its third generation, and 2024 represents a slight facelift for this vehicle. You have a slightly revised front end, new headlights and taillights, revised interior, and updated powertrains. They're all now hybrids, mild ones at least. So let's see what this very influential and still not quite very attractive in my eyes vehicle has in store for 2024. Now, if you're looking at buying or leasing a new car, and it doesn't have to be an insanely colored performance SUV like that BMW X6 M60i or this Maserati Grecale Trofeo, it could be a diesel truck, an EV, and everything in between. Whatever type of vehicle you're looking for, I can help by curating a customized list of vehicle recommendations that fit your needs. Visit drakemoscow.com/buying a car to see how I can help you find a new car. So this car is a press vehicle. It is owned by BMW and loaned out to automotive journalists, typically for 1 week at a time, for the purposes of review. Now, I have the sinking suspicion that BMW, aware that many automotive journalists don't really like the X6 in principle at least, because you can get an X5 on which this car is based for less money, it's more practical, and in my mind, and I think the minds of a lot of automotive journalists, more attractive. So knowing this, I think BMW chose to spec this vehicle very specifically, because even though I don't love the rear end of this car, my God, does it stand out. I absolutely love the paint on this car. This is Isle of Man green, and because this is the X6 M60i, it has all these dark accents and these large 22-inch rims, which also look really good. So I can't believe I'm saying it, but this X6 looks good. Ugh. So yes, this is the X6 M60i, which is a new number system for the 2024 model year. It used to be the M50i, but regardless, it means V8, 4.4-liter twin-turbo V8 that makes 523 horsepower and 553 pound-feet of torque. The reason it's now 60i versus 50i is because this is now a 48-volt mild hybrid system. Now you're probably wondering, what is a mild hybrid system? And essentially it is what it sounds like. It's a subtle, less intrusive hybrid system. This system has two main functions. The first is when you turn the car on. The 48-volt mild hybrid system will act as a starter generator. This helps reduce emissions and turns the car on faster, but what you'll notice is instead of the car going like when you turn the engine on, it'll just kind of jump to the RPMs that it idles at. It's a subtler, it's a less rattly, and it's a quieter ignition. The second thing you'll notice, and the thing you'll probably notice more, is when you come to a stop in this car. Like most new vehicles, this car has engine stop-start. So when you come to a stop, the engine turns off. But because this is a mild hybrid system, it can do so a little earlier. So I've noticed kind of if I'm coming to a stop when I'm around 6 or 5 miles per hour, that's when the engine shuts off and the car kind of just coasts the rest of the way to the stop with the engine off. And sometimes when I release my foot from the brake, the engine doesn't instantly turn on. When I move my foot over to the gas, that's when it kicks back to life. Even though this is a 523 horsepower twin turbo V8, it still gets pretty decent gas mileage. 22 on the freeway, 17 in the city, about 19 combined. That's not that far off from what some of the turbo 4-cylinders are getting in the bigger SUVs. I'm thinking I was just driving the GMC Acadia, and I think that vehicle in an all-wheel drive setting was rated at 21 mpg. And this is definitely a more fun engine. So if you're buying a BMW X6, you're doing so because you find it more attractive than the BMW X5, which is fine. I personally find the X5 more attractive, But the X6, it's here, but it is the same vehicle as the BMW X5. It has the same powertrains. It is the same chassis, just with slightly different styling. The X5 does have one additional powertrain, a plug-in hybrid inline six. That's not offered on the X6, but otherwise they are the same engines with the same performance. So what are you sacrificing though if you do want the X6 over the X5? The first thing is cargo. When I open this power lift gate, this reveals 27.4 cubic feet of cargo capacity, which is down from 33.9 cubic feet of cargo capacity in the BMW X5, so that's about 6.5 less. It's still a pretty usable space, and I do like that there is this cargo cover to keep all of your gear secure, but just the shape and the size of the X5 is definitely a bit more practical. You will be able to fit taller items in there because the rear end is a lot more square. And the second thing you're sacrificing is rear seat headroom. It starts with the door openings themselves. Because the roofline is slanting, it goes down a lot more. So you do have to duck your head to get in. That would also make putting a child in a child seat or just installing a child seat a bit more difficult. And when I close this door, at 6'2", I actually do just have enough headroom. My head is brushing up against the roof, but I do fit. I'm sitting quite low. I'm looking directly into the seat headrest, the back of the headrest of the seat in front of me. Normally in an SUV, you sit a little taller in the second row than the first row so that you can kind of see out. Helps with if you're a little car sick or if you get car sick. But I'm sitting pretty much at the same level, and I think they did that. I think they lowered these seats so that you can fit if you are taller. This does have a panoramic sunroof, so it is nice that I still do fit even with the panoramic sunroof. But I also noticed that because these seats are lower, my thighs are kind of high off of the seat cushion. It's not quite as comfortable back here, but I am happy to report that I do fit. If I lower this center armrest, that reveals a pair of cup holders, if I can get them open, and a little bit of storage. You can put a phone back here. And this model has heated rear seats, no ventilated seats in the back. There's actually a blank button, which is kind of annoying on a $111,000 car. There is a third climate control zone back here. We also get manual peasant blockers, which is really nice. There's a coat hook. The Bowers and Wilkins speaker grills look really good. And overall, it's, you know, it's pretty comfortable. This seat is adjusted to where I would sit about if I was the driver. So I do have plenty of knee room. My feet can slide in front of the seat in front of me. And all of the materials back here are really nice. I like this brown leather. You get carbon fiber, those speaker grills again, and some ambient lighting. So I fit. It's comfortable enough. But I think it would be a little more comfortable in the back of the X5. If you have tall friends, get a BMW X5. Also, if you have friends that get car sick, get a BMW X5 because I think you'd be able to see out a little better. But whether or not you get the X6 or the X5, you're going to be spending most of your time in the driver's seat, and that's pretty much the same between the two cars. So for 2024, one of the updates is the infotainment system and instrument cluster. They are now under a single pane of glass that runs kind of from your A-pillar to the driver's, the passenger side of the center of the car. It looks really good. It's super fast and responsive, the infotainment system. You get full screen, wireless Apple CarPlay. No wired CarPlay. I find that connection a little more secure, but that is not on offer in this X6. Obviously, a fully digital instrument cluster that you can cycle through a lot of different customization, both in the design and what is displayed. This car has a lot of crazy features that are just packed into it. There's augmented reality navigation that's only displayed in the instrument cluster, not in the heads-up display. Of course, this car has a heads-up display, but basically when you're driving down the road and you have the augmented reality screen displayed, if you're using the car's in-house navigation, not like Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, it will display over the road. Like, it's basically just a live camera feed of what's in front of you, and it will display arrows when it's time to turn over the road that you are trying to turn on. It's not like crazy helpful, but maybe if you're in an area that you're not familiar with, it would be helpful. But I wouldn't use BMW's native navigation system if I was in an area that I wasn't familiar with, because I would just want, you know, Waze or Google Maps or Apple Maps. There's no physical climate controls here. It is through the screens, and actually I have some qualms with how that all operates. So right now I can see what the temperature is on the screen. That is always available, and I can just press these buttons to adjust the temperature. If I want to adjust the climate control is being on or off or not, I have to press this little fan icon, and that brings up the climate control menu. I can then turn on or off automatic climate control. I always like automatic climate control being on, but there are 5 different levels of automatic climate control. So very low, low, medium, high, very high. And that just adjusts the fan speed essentially. When you have automatic climate control on and you want to turn it off, say, turn the climate control system off, maybe because you want to drive with the windows down, you have to go into this menu and then you just press the power button. And then say you go back to Apple CarPlay. So I have my CarPlay up and my climate control is still displayed at the very bottom. You also turn on your heated and cooled seats through the screen. But if you have the climate control off, you can't access the controls to turn on your heated and cooled seats, which is just crazy. So I can't have, say, my windows down, climate control off, and my cooled seats on. There's a way to do it, but it's just so, why? Why can't I access my seat functions when the climate control is off? That, to me, that makes no sense. In order to make that combination of things work, you have to go into the climate control, turn the climate control on, turn automatic climate control off, then turn the fans all the way to 0. Essentially, the climate control is now off, and now I can go and access my cooled seats. Why wasn't I able to do that before? And if I have my cooled seats on and I turn the climate control off, it turns off my cooled seats. I feel like those should be 2 completely separate systems. I don't understand why they are connected. I've never seen that in a car before. It's very strange and a little annoying. This entire infotainment system is extremely layered and has so many features and things that you can do with it, which is cool, but it's also not very easy to use while driving. I'm glad there is this rotary dial, but I do just find myself using the touchscreen anyways. There are so many menus and sub-menus in this infotainment system. I mean, most of the time you're just going to be using your CarPlay, which is pretty easy, or your Android Auto. But you do have to interact with the climate controls. I don't really understand why when you turn the climate controls off, it also turns off your heated and cooled seats. That's just completely bizarre to me. Anyways, that's not too distracting. And I do think in general, this cabin is pretty attractive and it's very comfortable. There's no massaging seats in this model at least, but everything is super comfortable. Steering wheel is super nice. And what's best about this car is how it drives. All right, driving the BMW X6 M60i. Now, the first thing I really notice about this vehicle is the engine. It is so sharp and responsive and refined and powerful. In a world of turbocharged 4-cylinders straining to move 3-row midsize SUVs, this engine is refreshing. It is plenty of power for the size of this car, and what's more is it doesn't get horrible fuel economy because of the 48-volt mild hybrid system. It's rated to get 17 in the city. Now, in a pretty dense urban area where I live, I have been averaging 14 mpg, but because this car has a 22-gallon fuel tank, you don't have to refuel it that often. I've been seeing still close to 400 miles on a single tank, which is excellent. In the Ford Maverick that I was driving last week, that uses a turbocharged 4-cylinder, and that averaged about 19 mpg in the time I had with it. I had to refill it after 250 miles because it was nearly empty. Not the case in this X6, which is pretty nice, even if you aren't getting as quite of good fuel economy. But that doesn't matter because when you put your foot down, oh my God, it's so good. That's what it is. It is an amazing engine. It is an amazing powertrain. Even though this isn't the full-out X6M competition with 617 horsepower, 523 is still plenty. If I plop it into sport mode, and I would like to be in sport plus mode, thank you very much. Oh, it is just throaty and powerful and punchy, and it responds like that, and it's so sharp. The driving dynamics of this vehicle are so good. Now, it does lean in the corners. I mean, this is a large SUV. You can't just deny the physics of this car. but they make it drive really good. Now this has active anti-roll bars, which definitely helps, and it also has adaptive suspension. So in comfort mode, this vehicle is pretty comfortable, and in sport mode, it sharpens up a lot. Another area where I've really noticed a difference in between the drive modes is the steering. In comfort mode, it is so light and boosted, it almost feels like the car has rear wheel steering. You put such minimal effort into turning the wheel, and the car turns a lot more than you're expecting. It's just makes navigating parking lots super easy. Then when you flick it over into sport mode, it gets nice and heavy like you are used to in a BMW, and it's so sharp and so quick. It feels really good. All right, I'm gonna floor it here. Yep, it's powerful. 523 horsepower, 0 to 60 in the low 4 seconds. That's still pretty good, and that's probably a conservative figure from BMW. And pushing it in the corners here, yep, so it leans, but it also tries its best to remain composed. This is obviously no Corvette. I'm driving a Corvette Z06 at the same time that I have this vehicle, so obviously that car handles these corners a bit better, but you know, for the size of this vehicle, it remains impressively flat. It is a pretty dynamic car, and you do feel the M-ness. Obviously an X6 M competition is going to have even stiffer suspension that is even more capable, but then you lose out on some of the comfort aspects, which I think in an X6, which is going to be like a daily driver type of vehicle, I think you're going to want. You're not always going to want it to be super stiff and aggressive. I've actually been driving this car mostly in comfort mode. The car just kind of softens, and the V8, instead of being aggressive and super powerful, it's just there so that you can do basically anything you want. You can pass any car you want. You can take advantage of any free roadway that you want. Like right here, I can just put my foot down and it will roar to life. But at the same time, then it's super comfortable. When I come to a stop, that mild hybrid system that I explained really comes into life. That doesn't happen in sport mode. The BMW wants you to have all the power possible when you're in sport mode. But the steering, like I said, gets nice and light. Like you just kind of feel so isolated. It's also so quiet in this car. You get a little bit of wind noise from the windows, like from the higher side of the window. It might be from the side view mirror actually, because they're quite big, but it's so comfortable in here. The seats are so comfortable, and with the light steering, you just kind of feel special and important and just floating down the road in your bright green BMW X6, and everyone will yield to you because you look absolutely absurd, but also absolutely awesome. This car is a lot of fun to drive, kind of in all settings, which is really impressive, and which is why I kind of prefer this X6 M60i possibly over the X6 M competition. I haven't had a chance to drive that vehicle yet, but I really see the benefits of this mid-tier M vehicle. So that's the 2024 BMW X6 M60i. This is a tech-packed car under the hood and within, and it has impressive driving dynamics that do justify its rather high price tag of $111,000. Now, if it were me, I would go with the X5 M60i because I find it a little more attractive, it's a little more practical, and it's a little less expensive. But if you do like the looks of this X6 M60i a bit more, know that you would be getting an excellent car. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.